But in my early 20s, like all the information we have now was non-existent. So when you're burning the candle at both ends, which I was with over exercising, I had amenorrhea for all of my 20s. So I had no cycle just from over exercise, under eating. And I got into a really difficult cycle of underactive thyroid, insomnia, and a lot of it was driven by, of course, cortisol was so high in my body, and my nervous system at the time was so dysregulated. It was driving a whole host of problems that I suppose I completely normalized. And probably a lot of my friends around me at the time were in a similar situation. Like very typical, it was very stereotypical at the time that like cardio bunny, we're all trying to be skinny. And you can see actually that resurface now with GLP-1s. You can see that theme surfacing again. But after a few years, in 2020, I had my twins. So they're now 5. And I went through a breakup with their dad. And I like, it was such a weird feeling. It was almost like I felt trapped underwater. I was like, wow, I actually can't continue this level of stress in my body with the controlling of food and dealing with the low mood, because the mood was low from poor sleep. And it kind of jolted me into finding a solution. So that's when I really got into circadian health and really understanding female circadian health. And then understanding you actually can't have deep restorative sleep. What was the one thing I was missing? Regulation. You cannot have deep restorative sleep without that. But I was doing everything else, from the ashwagandha, the magnesium bisglycinate. I was doing the wind down routine. I was doing everything around the sleep hygiene, neglecting the elephant in the room, which was the nervous system regulation. So then after I really got a handle on circadian health, I realized, okay, now I need to deeply go into somatic work and regulation, because I didn't even know what that was. I just thought I was a person who had, at the time, didn't know, but very much ADHD. I didn't realize that I actually could rest. I could slow down. I wasn't addicted to doing. And once I really got into that work, it was like a new world for me, because I realized I had to spend so much less effort on controlling food because I was mindful enough and slowed down enough to not be passively eating or emotionally eating all the time. And that's what really stuck with me at the time. I was thinking, wow, I really need to help people do this, because I struggled with over under eating cycles for many years. And I really removed myself out of that when I become more regulated, because again, you can stop in the moment and ask yourself what you really need in that moment rather than using food as a comfort. That was the first real significant thing I noticed. And then when the twins were 2, I said, okay, I'm finished being a PE teacher. I was a PE teacher all my life, really, bar a few other jobs, and always worked in sports. And then I said, I'm going to try this Instagram thing. And within a year, I'd probably gained over 1 million followers. And across all platforms now, it's nearly 3 million. But again, it's purely because it was, at the time, it wasn't that normal for people to be really raw and honest. Now it is. People are much better at storytelling. But in 2023, people were like, oh my gosh, like most people are putting on the front that everything's going great. And I was like, hey, I'm actually kind of struggling here, but also using tools to keep me above board, that I'm not drowning. With a single mother of 2-year-old twins at the time, like it was really intense. So I think everything I learned in the thick of, it was like feeling like you're in the storm, really resonate with people, because they were like, okay, I can actually use these things, because my circumstances are certainly not perfect either. So I think that's what really resonates. But even now, like nervous system regulation has become such a big part of my life and motherhood, that I really just want to share that with as much people as I can, because I still think it's really misunderstood as a concept. Because I think we see regulation as one thing, which is go have your bath and meditate and do a little bit of regulation tools every now and again when you get really stressed. But actually it's a way of life, and regulation is everything from gut health, blood sugar balance, your self-compassion, and everything in between. Tools are just one piece of that bigger puzzle. And that's what really stood out to me when I work with clients. I was like, wow, we actually can't just address the tools and the things that are quite straightforward. I think social media has kind of made the tools seem like they're the only way to regulate. They can help you regulate in the moment, and they can give you headspace to make better decisions, but you also have to address all them other things. And for women, it's shame, guilt, self-criticism. There's lots of pieces of that puzzle. But I was only able to address all them things when I started to put the first foot forward, which was the regulation tools and learning how to do them depending on the state I was in. That was another thing that was completely new to me. I didn't realize, of course, I don't like meditating when I'm fully in fight or flight. Of course, I don't like meditation when I'm in freeze. I want to up regulate when I'm in freeze, not down regulate. So there was just a lot of interesting things that I thought, whoa, loads of women don't know this. And they've been so helpful to me and clients. I really want to make this a lot more understood because I think there's huge misunderstanding around. I suppose globally we all want a quick fix. I gravitate towards quick fixes myself way too often. It's just what we're kind of drilled into us. But it's a slow burn, nervous system regulation most of the time. And it's just understanding that we need that delayed gratification and we need to fully, deeply understand how much it's going to transform your life in order to actually stick with it, because you mightn't see much change for the first few weeks. I knew for me it was very motivating that my insomnia was fizzling away. I was like, oh my God, I'm getting another block. I'm getting sleep easier. That was like a big one for me to keep going with the nervous system regulation, the sleep part, and everything to do with circadian health. And then it was also other things happening in the background around like better digestion. I was way less reactive in conversations. And I was like, I always think of it like lenses. You know, when you're in rest and digest, I think, okay, I'm wearing the green glasses now. Everything seems great. Like if somebody criticizes me, I kind of brush it off. I'm able to connect and talk to you. I'm not thinking of lots of other things at the same time. But then I take off that lens and I put on my red lens, which is my fight or flight lens. Everything seems more threatening. I'm internalizing a lot more things. I'm self-critical. But then when I take them off, put on freeze, again, say that's a blue lens, blue black almost. You're almost in this depressive state. Again, I see life through a completely different lens. So we are not living reality. We're living through our state. We're living through the nervous system state we're in. And that really interests me so much because our perception of reality changes depending on the state we're in.
It's your perception of reality. That's the key. And I think you've hit so many things that resonate with everyone, including me. And it makes perfect sense. And I know so many women who are just pushing it, doing all the right things, all the hacks, and the diet, the exercise. They're doing the sleep hygiene, like you said, doing their devices to manage the stress, but yet they still struggle.
I think that's a really interesting one because a lot of people are going through the motions of they are doing the ear massage, the humming, the cold exposure. They have their vibration plate. They do their lymphatic drainage in the morning. And a lot of type A women I work with, that's actually doing themselves a disservice. They need to peel down and do the 2-step morning routine instead of the 10-step. They need less devices. They need more self-trust to just do the basics well. And I think that's kind of where 2026 is going. We're realizing, hold on, we went a little bit crazy there in 2024, 2025, thinking we need massive amounts of supplement stacks, gadgets, like a huge host of routines. But males thrive off routines like that a lot of the time. They do really well with like structure, rigid routine, 24-hour clock, whereas we're very cyclical. We need different routines depending on the day, week. If you're in perimenopause, the symptoms you're experiencing, if you're in the luteal phase, if you're in postmenopause, we're always going to be cyclical. So things need to be fluid. So if we hold ourselves to, I must do that 10-step skincare routine, plus that meditation, plus that other elaborate piece of my morning routine every morning, then we don't do it when we're fatigued and we feel like a failure. So I think that's like for me now, my routines are so much shorter than they used to be.
Well, like I got two twins running around the house. I don't know how you do it in terms of, I would go back to myself when I had smaller kids. I think I know if I knew what I knew now back then, I think I would attempt, but I would just have to do it shorter. Like I don't have time. Who has time?
That's absolutely it. Like luckily I'm a morning bird, so I am up before 6, so I have half an hour before they wake up. But I do find it so intense. I find some days I cry very regularly just for the emotional release of like, whoa, them fighting, the loud noises in the house, just like constant dealing with their emotions. I find that extremely intense. And I think, whoa, where the hell would I be if I didn't have physical exercise I always lean on and regulation techniques? Like, where would I be if I didn't do this work? Because I already feel like now I'm just about holding on some days to how intense it can be. And that's like best case scenario. So for people that aren't ticking the boxes, it's really, really hard to spin all the plates. Essentially, I have my own business. So my work day it's not a 12-hour day by any means. I do it as short as I can to fit the school hours. So again, I have like optimal conditions and I still find things can be really difficult mentally sometimes dealing with children. So I do think for people that are struggling, you really have to think the world isn't made for us to be regulated. We certainly have to seek out solutions.